Everybody in Kenya and well beyond is talking about it. The prices of petrol in Kenya finally crossed the Kenya shillings 200 mark. Yani more than 200 bob per liter of fuel. And in a moment, I will explain why, in my opinion, that is a very big deal. Very big. Humongous, colossal, huge deal. Okay? But first, the politics. Why isn't Raila Odinga saying something? Why are Azimio quiet? Is it true that Raila Odinga has been subdued? That is what is bothering so many Kenyans. And not only that, the latest whispers, rumors, are that Martha Karua, a principal in Azimio, a key figure, is about to bolt out of Azimio, leave Azimio. Is that really true? Is it something we should expect? I will come back to that on my information-packed show today. So please sit back, relax, but make sure your thinking cap, ile kofia unavaa akili inafanya, is not too far away, because you're going to definitely need it. Yeah, but relax. This is going to be quite a show, I promise. And let us start with these petrol prices. Relax. I'm going to keep it very simple. Indeed, it is going to be very entertaining, despite the fact that this thing is serious. It is so serious you cannot imagine. Okay? Now, why is it a big deal that these prices have crossed the Kenya shillings 200 mark? I will tell you. Imagine a situation whereby this Kenya shillings 200 was standing on the road and threatening fuel prices. Wewe, jaribu kupita hapa. Jaribu. Ukipita hapa utaona moto. Jaribu. And so what did the fuel prices do? They threatened to cross the 200 mark, but they were just threatening. At one point, last month you'll remember, they were due to cross. But then the Ruto administration subsidized. Oops, they don't like that word. Walifanya ukarabati. The fuel levy kicked in and made sure the prices don't cross 200. But then a few hours ago, the prices finally crossed the Kenya shillings 200 mark. Nambio, this guy crossed very fast. Ulikuwa nasema nini? Si nimepita. Response? Haya. Ngoja matokeo. Wait for the consequences. And today, let's go to the experts. Wasomi. What are they saying? Okay, about the issue in Kenya? Because, trust me, we need to take them very seriously. Let us start with the economist, Dr. David Ndii. Okay, forget the fact that you don't like his politics. Forget the fact that he was with Raila Odinga last elections, and now he's with Ruto. Forget all that. This man, amesoma, and he understands economics. We're not talking about his ability to fix an economy. No, we're just talking about his knowledge. Okay? Because the truth is, ability to fix, hana your track record, okay? But he understands. So let's listen to him. This is the most scary quote from David Ndii. And I quote, "I'm not a politician. I don't sell hope. It is going to be painful. And it may not work. Even Oxford and Harvard-trained doctors lose patience." Hey, let's break that down. How do doctors lose patience? Yani, they die. This is what happens. They're very skilled doctors, the best in the world. And this is an operation to save somebody's life. And they know what they need to do. But they also know about the risk. And therefore they try their best, and at the end of the day, they lose their patient. So what Dr. Ndii is telling us is that whatever Kenya Kwanza is trying, the UDA administration, Ruto's government, there is a high possibility that not only will the patient be lost, but even before the patient is lost, and we are talking about the nation called Kenya, it will be painful, very painful. Now, that applies to you, and it applies to me. Kenyans need to brace themselves for even more pain, because you're already in pain. That's what he's saying. And of course, the first part of the statement, all politicians sell hope. Actually, I can call it dope, yeah, which makes you feel good that things are going to be good. And the UDA government has been telling us, to vumilie, things are going to be very good. They're fixing things, okay? That is hope. Actually, dope, as I call it. False promises. And every government does this all over the world. Even if the Azimio government was in power, it would have done the same. Although I dare add, Azimio would have had much more empathy towards the ordinary Kenyan, the ordinary long-suffering Kenyan. Now, I hope I've not lost anybody. I'm going to break this down even further so that we all understand. Grade 2 level. Yeah, so relax. Now, what do the politicians say? Let's go to the political scientist whom Kenyans really look up to, at least most Kenyans. And that is a man called Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. This is what he says. Dear Ruto, your economics is bad for politics. How does EPRA increase kerosene prices by 33% and diesel by 20%? The poor use kerosene to cook and matatus use diesel to move. The poor are hurting, and all headlines this week are about more taxes, even more taxes. Do not lose the plot, my friend. That's what Mutahi Ngunyi says. And of course it is 100% true. This cannot be good for politics. But actually, is using kind words. The truth, the brutal truth, is that this is devastating to William Samoei Ruto. How so? For a government to survive, you need the support of the masses. It doesn't matter whether it's a military government, it doesn't matter whether it's a communist government, socialist, it doesn't matter. You need support of at least some of the people. I would say at least 40% of the population should be supporting you for you to have any chance of survival. Okay? Now, by my personal estimates, Ruto had already lost the support of over 80% of Kenyans after the Finance Bill 2023 push by State House. And now, with these latest developments, any inkling of any small support he may still have had with the Kenyan public has vanished. I think most of you will agree with me on that. And therefore, Mutahi Ngunyi's comments here are very soft. Yeah, the truth is, Ruto administration, presidency, kwisha maneno. It is now only a matter of time. And this is the reality in Kenya. And if the circumstances were the same in Timbuktu or any other country on this globe, the verdict would have been the same. Hiyo serikali kwisha maneno. It is only a matter of time. And that is just logic, common sense, not even political science. Now, what is the real situation in Kenya? Yeah, and we are not economists. We know nothing. Okay, let's assume that so that we break it down so that everybody understands. You know, the other day, my 11-year-old daughter asked me a very interesting question. She asked me, Daddy, why don't people just print more money? I have read that printing more money is very bad, but I don't understand why. Why don't people just print more money? Now I'll tell you a secret. The way I answered my 11-year-old daughter shocked me. It really impressed me. I realized that this is something that can be broken down. And therefore I'm going to start with the way I broke that down for her, so that we all understand, without being economists, without having gone to expensive universities and colleges to learn economics, so that we all understand exactly where Kenya is right now. And this is what I told her. Imagine that small village where your grandfather came from, and somebody needs to buy a packet of unga, and they need to sell their goats to get enough money to buy a packet of unga. And they also need cooking oil, and they also need vegetables and maybe meat. So you can see the problem. The goat is of more value than all those items. And this is how money comes in. The money, assuming that that small village was an entire country, the money in that village should be of equal value to all the goats, the cows, and the valuable things people own in that small village. And so imagine a situation where in that village, the chief or the king, the person in charge of the village, decided to print more money, much more money than the value of goods in that small village. What do you think would happen? There would be too much money chasing too few goods, or the money available is more than the value of what is in that small village. And that is precisely what inflation is. Too much money chasing too few goods. And from the questions my daughter asked me, I knew that she had totally understood. Now, the situation in Kenya. And let's go back to that small village. And the previous chief or king of that village was called Uhuru Kenyatta. And the end of his presidency was fast approaching. And he had nothing to show for his presidency. And therefore he decided to invest in huge infrastructural projects. In the village, they decided to make all the roads tarmac. Pop! Just like that. Overnight. And in that small village, there are not enough cows, goats to pay for those roads. And therefore the only alternative is for that small village to borrow from Nairobi. Now that small village has already borrowed in the past, in fact in the recent past. And the big problem with that past borrowing is that it went into individuals' pockets. Some rich villagers, 2 or 3 of the villagers there who are very rich, built very big mansions. Now these big mansions don't add value to that village. They're not factories. They're just huge mansions where those villagers come to once a year with their families to spend Christmas. 2-3 days they live in those mansions. The rest of the year they are not there. So you don't even need workers. You don't need cooks. There is no money being added in that village. Those mansions are just white elephants. They're doing nothing to the economy of the village. Although they're very grand, very big, very impressive. And now we have a new chief or a new king. And he's worse than the previous king because he's building more mansions even faster. Useless mansions in the village. To cut a long story short, those who lent the previous king money and those who have lent the current king money arrive at the village one day and they want their money. The money the previous king borrowed and the kings before him is long overdue. And therefore it is also affecting the current debt. Very simply put, if you lend somebody money today and then you discover that already he owes a lot of people money, you get jittery. And therefore you change your mind. You want your money now. You're nervous. And if there's any deal to postpone payment, you raise the interest. It becomes higher. So how will the village pay this money? The mansions cannot be sold. Those mansions are dead capital. Nobody in the village can buy them. Nobody outside can buy them. Nobody wants to get stuck in this old backward village. And therefore the only source of income is to get money from the poor villagers. Snatch away their chickens, snatch away their goats and sell them to keep paying those debts the village owes. But then there's a very big problem that results from this emergency measure to collect money to keep the auctioneers away from that village. And this is what Wasomi call disposable income, or simply put, money to spend. The villagers have been so pressed, they have no money to spend anymore. Now how does this affect the village administration? I will tell you. That goat market, where they used to bring their goats every week to sell, the chief used to collect tax. This happens in every market, To use the market, you have to pay something small. And this income was going towards the income of that village or country, in our case. And with more money in the coffers of the village was able to supply the very basics which were required in that village to keep life going. Like to pay the electricity bill, to pump the water so that people can get water. Because all the streams in that village are dry. And also to give the village administration money to pay their workers. So you can see how everything is getting affected. The village administration can no longer survive because it's collecting less taxes. And so there's only one option left: to go back to the same villages and to sell off that last cacao they had, that last chicken they had. And by the cows they're selling produce milk. And therefore you shut down somebody's milk business as a result. I believe that is a very good summary of Kenya's economic situation as we speak. But I need to remind you of something. Something which is going to make this September very painful. Okay? Remember, we took fuel on credit. And when that fuel landed here and we put it in our matatus and our vehicles, the Kenya shilling was much stronger against the dollar. But now the Kenya shilling is much weaker and it is time to pay up. Those payments are due this month, September. And therefore you can see why the government had no option but to raise the prices of fuel so that they cross the Kenya shilling's 200 psychological barrier, which I believe is more than a psychological barrier. It is going to mess up a lot of things in our economy. Just go back to the village example I've given you. The situation we are in as a country, it's a crisis. And this is why Dr. David Ndii said it is going to be painful. He told us he's not a politician. He doesn't sell dope. He doesn't sell hope. It is going to be painful. And whatever they're trying to do to rescue the country from this disaster, looming disaster, may not work. Oxford and Harvard trained doctors, they also lose patience in the operating theater. So the country called Kenya is in an operating theater. It's an emergency. And it is possible that the patient called Kenya could be lost. You could have a doctor shaking their head. Sorry, we have lost the patient. People don't have any money to spend. Disposable income ilienda. And at this juncture, petrol prices have crossed the Kenya shillings 200 mark. Let's go back to that village. The chicken, the goats have already been taken. You only have that one cow that is producing milk, which you get an income from, which is left. And the government comes and takes that one. That is the situation we are in as a country. And that is the pain we should expect going forward. Things are bad. And that is not propaganda. It is the truth. It is the reality. Now I have some good news for you, believe it or not, before we go into the politics. In 2019, I produced a documentary titled How to Prosper in a Depressed Economy. By then things were good. I didn't get your attention. And I didn't take it personally. I understood. And I even kicked myself. I wondered why I'd made it in the first place. I thought it was useless. I never thought things would be as bad as they are today. Although I found myself predicting the same. But I didn't understand myself, let me be honest. Now the good news is that the basic principles in that documentary and in the 2 ebooks that went as a package in that documentary are still very true today, almost 4 years later. In fact, they are more true today than they were then. And the basic thing is as follows. History tells us that fortunes have been made, people have prospered, people have done much better than they ever expected to do during very hard times, during dead economies. And indeed, this is why I have retitled my precious documentary, How to Survive in a Dead Economy. Because that's what we have in Kenya today. Let's be honest with ourselves. Now you can complain, you can cry, You can criticize the UDA government. You can throw barbs at William Ruto. You can do all those things. That is the easy thing to do. But will it help you? Will it help me? Of course not. What will help you is if you step back and take advantage of the terrible situation to do better for yourself. Because it has been done in the past. History has shown us that people have prospered most when economies are dead. Not when things are good, not when things are medium. They have prospered best when things are very, very bad. Even worse than the situation in Kenya is today. And a good example is the American Great Depression of the 1930s. But there are many, many other examples. Even Iraq after the bombing, the people made fortunes. Russia, when there was a mess, and the Russian ruble looked like it was going to collapse completely, people made fortunes. How did they do it? By adjusting to the new rules, the brand new rules which are suddenly in the market. Yeah, you can't continue doing things the way you've been doing them. You have to change your thinking and even the way you do things. It is fully explained in my documentary, complete with brilliant ideas that you can use during these very difficult times to completely revolutionize and change your circumstances. And this package of this documentary, which is mostly in 3 parts, but I've added other valuable information, other 3 very valuable videos in the same package, as well as 3 very valuable ebooks, which are based on 1, ideas, number 2, how to get people rushing to you. Yeah, you don't need to sell, you get people rushing to you. And number 3, how to even do this on a part-time basis. It is now available for only, wait for this one, $39, 3,900 Kenya shillings, or $39. I will send you the complete package, and you can abandon the group of people complaining and join the very small group of people who will come out of this one better than they were even before this mess started. Okay, I strongly recommend that you go for it. You can see details on your screens right now. You can M-Pesa that 3,900 shillings to the M-Pesa number you see, or even PayPal $39 to youmissthis@gmail.com, and pop, I will send you this valuable information immediately. Right, let's move to the politics, which I'm sure many of you have been waiting for with bated breath. Why is Azimio behaving like this? Where is Raila Odinga? Is it true that he's done and dusted? Kwisha maneno? Let me attempt to answer that question without kizungu mingi, very directly. One of the most important things in Raila Odinga politics, for those of us who have followed him for a long time, is something called timing. Okay? Timing is critical in politics. And I have a feeling, I don't have any evidence yet, but I have a feeling that Raila postponed his big announcement because somebody leaked out information to him that the prices of fuel in Kenya are about to go bananas, are about to go crazy. And therefore it would make sense to wait until that big announcement that has hit Kenyans so hard is made. And then the people he's addressing, they'll even be more attentive than they would have been before the fuel prices surpassed Kenya shillings 200. It's as simple as that. Of course, there are the outside factors which I speak about in my weekly intelligence briefings, number 114, for those who have taken it in. Those factors also come into play. And of course, there is also timing there, because the outside factors are also in motion. 1 or 2 things are being done. And of course, for a local politician who understands that nobody is an island, nobody is a small village cut out from the rest of the world, that politician will want to bring his plans into sync with what is happening outside Kenya. In case you've not taken in my WIB number 114, I strongly recommend that you do. Then you'll totally understand, because this information is a bit on the sensitive side. Actually, it's very sensitive. Okay? But let's move on. In any political grouping, any political party, you're bound to have people called hotheads or kichwa ngumu. Even in the basic setting of a family, you'll have the hotheads, the hot-tempered people, the people who can change, pop, just like that, and you understand them, and you don't hate them, you accept them as part of the family. Now in Azimio, just like in any other grouping which has human beings in it, there are a few hotheads, and I will not mention them today, or perhaps I'll just mention one other one. Apart from the person of interest today, Babu Wino is one such person. And another person is, of course, Martha Wangari Karua. Look at her political history. She resigned from the Kibaki government. She walked away because she did not agree with the way Kibaki was running things. And therefore, it is not very far-fetched to have Martha Karua walk out of Azimio because she does not agree with what is happening within Azimio. Makes sense? I think it does. Now, I've not been able to get any concrete information or confirmation about this. However, I have gotten information for weeks that there's been a lot of tension within Azimio, especially around Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Raila Odinga. And my information has been telling me that it is much more than a difference in ideas, a difference in thinking, a difference in the way things should be running. That's what my information has been telling me. But of course, in any democratic setting, you don't expect everybody to agree with you. Even in a family setting, you are the father, you are the authority. Not every child will agree totally with how you're doing things. Your dear wife on many occasions will never agree with you. That is normal. And so the big question for Azimio is the following. Are the differences, are the tensions enough to make Martha Karua bolt out of Azimio? I don't know the answer to that question. And despite the rumors, in my personal opinion, my answer, based on the information I have and my gut feeling, is that the answer is no. Okay? But I may be wrong. The rumors may be correct. We just have to wait and see. But of course, the biggest question is, will Raila Odinga be able to save the country called Kenya? Because one, we are in a mess. Two, we're heading towards an even bigger mess with the current economic situation. So can Raila Odinga and Azimio save the country? You know, one huge difference between UDA and Azimio, whether you agree with me or not, is that Azimio has a huge following, a following of the vast majority of Kenyans. And therefore, even if Dr. David Ndii was going to come in with his economic policies to save Kenya from the messes of the past, and Raila Odinga was president, things would have worked out very, very differently. Because first of all, the politics would have cushioned the ordinary mwananchi. And even with the president making painful decisions, in this case President Raila Amolo Odinga, things would have worked out much more smoothly. The chances of success, the chances of saving this patient would have been much higher. Why? Because of the support of the vast majority of the people. That one is very important in any country. But the situation we've had in Kenya is a minority government, very few people supporting it, coming into power. And in such circumstances, what a government like that should do is to try and gain popularity of the masses before they do anything. But then that government behaved as if it had the popular vote. What did you expect to happen? Disaster. It can't work. Because a country is not your personal property. A country is not a few people in a village you can walk around and convince. No. You need the full support of the country. You need the right mood in the country, where everybody is working together, knowing that yes, we are suffering, but we are doing this for a better tomorrow. Has that been the mood in the country under Ruto? Of course not. The mood in the country under Ruto has been anger. The election was stolen. Kenyans have found it impossible to walk away from that pain of having an election stolen. And therefore, That is why we're in the mess we are in today. Well, I'm not a politician, but I want to sell hope. Yeah, and one of the reasons, of course, is that we cannot give up. Because when you give up, you're done. When you're still fighting up to the last minute, you still have a chance. And of course, praying to Almighty God, you still have a chance to save yourself. And that is what I'd like to encourage you with. Don't give up. A better Kenya is definitely coming. Now, a quick reminder to those who are interested, how to prosper in a dead economy. Yeah, the package of those valuable videos with the information, plus the 3 ebooks, only for $39, or Kenya shillings 3,900. You can see details on your screens right now. I highly recommend that you consider going for it, because it applies to everybody, no matter what kind of business you're doing right now. Even if it has not been hit so hard so far, you can be sure that going forward, because Kenyans don't have disposable income, you will definitely be affected. Therefore, my recommendation is that you do something. Even if you don't take me up on my offer, please sit down and plan and do something. It is very important. Until next time, this is Kshs. Kumekucha.